Hello. What's up? We totally live in a very normal country. It's totally what has been a very normal news week, or I should say, these last 2 days have been totally normal. Jesus. Yeah. There's no one here currently, so I may as well just babble until there's at least one person in the chat. Well, I do want to actually, start off with, a topic. The elephant in the room, Charlie Kirk, got shot in the neck. Well, right in the fucking jugular. Jesus. I mean, all right, look, I've made it clear on this channel several times that, I don't have any sympathy or empathy when vile people, die. But I'm also not gonna like sit here and say, oh yeah, what happened to him should have happened. He should have gotten assassinated. I'm not about that either. Just all around, it's kind of annoying seeing the discourse, people treating this as a black and white thing. Oh, if you don't care what happened to Charlie Kirk, then obviously you must condone what happened to him. And I'm just like, he was a vile hate monger whose rhetoric surely inspired violence and maybe even death of certain, some people within marginalized groups who he routinely attacked. So why should I feel any sympathy? But at the same time, I don't think he should have been assassinated. Like, those aren't two. The two, both of those things can be true. You can be like, I don't care that again, a vile hate monger got murked, but at the same time, you could also be like, yeah, that definitely wasn't the way he should have went. I do plan on making a video about my thoughts and the whole you know Charlie Kirk assassination that happened, and you know I don't plan on talking about that too much here. Um, that video though, the first video I saw um, of him getting assassinated was the close up one. It's funny, I was scrolling on Discord. I had just woken up, and then someone posted my server. Charlie Kirk got shot, and I was like, "What?" And at first, I thought it wasn't, anything too serious, and I even joked, like, I mean, you know, this world has proven if you're a vile piece of shit, you're basically fucking invincible, and you get to live to be like 104. So he'll probably be fine, knowing our luck. That's when I thought the shot was benign. I mean, no gunshot is truly benign, obviously, no matter where you get shot in the body. But I was under the impression he got shot in like the stomach or the leg or the arm, and an artery wasn't hit or anything serious like that. So I thought he'll probably be fine. And then I saw the video and I was like, oh shit, that got him right in the fucking jugular. Jesus, that was brutal. Again, I had nothing nice to say about him when he was alive. Not gonna pretend to have nice things to say about him now that he's dead, but no, like really, that video was just something else, really haunting. Um, it was mostly haunting because he 1 second he was perfectly normal and healthy and doing his usual shit, debating college students, and funnily enough, right at that second he was like downplaying gun violence and having a debate surrounding gun violence, and then he gets shot in the middle of that. There's a cruel irony there, but yeah, it was just all around a very difficult video to watch. My sympathies extend only to his wife, who is now a widow, and his kids, who are not going to remember their father, and that's really about it. Like, again, I'm not going to pretend like I'm gutted over Charlie Kirk, getting shot, and I'm gonna have all these nice things to say about him. No, it's not. I'm sorry, that's just not who I am. I'm not gonna like pretend like someone who I thought was a piece of shit during life is all of a sudden, this great, pure, kind-hearted soul in death. Yeah. Anyway, there's two people here and two people in chat. How's it going? Hello, Gorilla with internet access. How are you doing? And me, I am okay, all things considered. I mean, crazy recent news aside, my life is the same mundane shit like it always is. Again, I don't want to talk too much about the Charlie Kirk thing because I do plan on making a video about it, talking about my thoughts on him dying and all that. And oh yeah, the shooter was identified. Tyler Robinson, apparently well, I wouldn't say a Republican. He was registered as an independent, I believe. I haven't read everything surrounding him yet, but apparently comes from a Mormon background, family, or at least his father was a cop, I think, and now a pastor, I believe. So, and also like there were like scribblings, or I think he actually engraved the gun casings, and there were like 4chan memes engraved onto them. One of them was like big bulge or whatever. Apparently that's a meme from 4chan. I don't fucking use 4chan. Um yeah, I'm a loser, but I'm not that big of a loser. Um and also something like if you're reading this, you're gay or something like that. My money's on it's like some deranged groiper. That's what I'm assuming. Some of his last words were him being transphobic. Oh, yeah, Charlie Kirk's. Yeah, wasn't he talking about apparently there being an epidemic of trans shooters? Like, I think the person who was debating him at the time he got shot asked him how many trans shooters have there been in the last 10 years, 5 years? And he said too many, and that obviously got a big applause from the crowd. Um, when there have only been like count on a single hand how many there have been. I think five compared to like the fucking hundreds, surely, cis white male shooters. And then I think he was, and then he said counting or not counting gang violence, and then got hit right in the fucking jugular again. That video was not a pleasant watch. Again, I saw the close up video of his death. That was the first one I saw right when I heard the news. I broke my golden rule. I actually went on Twitter because I knew Twitter would have the video. Kind of wish I didn't see that, but I have morbid curiosity. So about that news, huh? Yeah. Again, very very normal and stable country. I don't like the precedent this sets, though. Like this potentially opens a Pandora's box of online political commentators getting shot at public events. I guess if there's one silver lining to this, you're probably never that you probably just witnessed the end of those annoying fucking college campus debate events. I don't know if anyone's gonna want to fucking do those anymore after this. I don't know if any political commentator is gonna want to be doing any like public events after this. This country is gonna get more crazier. I mean, I don't doubt that. Yes, you are. I am what? I don't know what that's in reference to. This is how I'm finding out 4chan is back. Yeah, I mean 4chan. I mean, I don't know how much influence 4chan has these days compared to the influence it had even just like 10 years ago. Around the time Trump got elected the first time, I think that was like the peak of 4chan's popularity. and relevance. But no, there are still people there. People, probably by and large, people who are not, right in the head, like this person clearly was. I mean, if you're gonna go out and shoot someone, obviously there's not something right with you, and that's putting it very lightly. Hello, Dylan. Dylanime, how are you doing? I changed my username since I prefer Dylanime to Nintendylan64. Cool. Ben Shapiro canceled an event after the shooting. Yeah, again, I mean, if you're a political commentator, left or right, I'd imagine you're not very, you're not going to want to be doing any public appearances or public events at this time, or maybe even not ever again. I mean, is it worth it? Watched an Archfiend video about this, the first one he made, just hours after the shooting happened, and he said in the video, was it worth it? Was it worth it being so divisive and so reviled? And I kind of, I mean, it kind of resonated with me. Charlie Kirk spent his entire adult life spreading hatred, creating division, sowing division, I should say. And, I mean, obviously, that accrued him a lot of wealth. It got him connections with the president of the United fucking States. But look at where all that, ended up. What does he have to show for it now? You know? It's just, it should be an eye opener for, people who want to, spend life, you know, spreading hatred, but I know it won't be. I mean, this only mobilizes you know, the right wingers, the hardline right wingers, the more militant ones, even more. You've already been seeing before the shooters even fucking identified people wanting, the heads of leftists on pikes, because they thought surely it was like a hardline leftist who shot at Charlie Kirk, and it seems to be like a politically incoherent, deranged 4chaner, possibly Groiper. But none of that is gonna matter. You're still gonna crow on about how it's the Democrats and the left who did this, and we need to finally crack down on them. I meant back as in 4chan was, I believe, hacked and shut down a while back. Oh, yeah. Forgot that happened because, again, I as you could tell, I don't pay attention to 4chan all that much and what goes on there. I don't know if it came back after that. Probably did. I haven't checked, and I don't really care enough to check. I mean, I heard that happened, but I wasn't really following the whole 4chan hack bullshit, and the site apparently shutting down. I heard it shut down, but I was like, yeah, it'll probably be back, and probably is back. I don't know. I saw Bernie Sanders made a video on Charlie Kirk's death. Yeah, I saw Bernie's statement on Charlie Kirk's death as well. Pretty much what it needed to be. Condemnation of what happened. I wasn't expecting Bernie to go on video, go in front of the camera and be like, "Get fucked, loser." That would be kind of funny, though. But no, obviously, he wouldn't do that. Nancy Mace was hurling the T slur in a press conference in response to the shooting. Yeah, the right so badly wanted this to be, some hardline trans leftist and probably a person of color too. Just add that little cherry on top. But it ended up being some white Mormon, again, probably Groyper in Utah. I mean, well, I assume we'll learn more information about the shooter eventually. Someone shared on my Discord server a little bit before I went live this tweet. According to Utah officials plus police interviews with the family, Tyler Robinson hated Charlie Kirk because he wasn't conservative enough. Robinson reportedly admired Nick Fuentes. GOP is now scrubbing X posts about Dems faster than DOJ erases Trump's name in Epstein files. I don't know the validity to that. I'm not spreading that like it's, absolute fact, but I mean, if that is real, then there's your smoking gun right there. Again, obviously, it won't matter. They're still going to pin this on the left and say we need to crack down on, you know, l- advocacy for pro leftist causes, and the speech of leftists on platforms such as YouTube. Well, I don't know. I don't. I guess the somewhat silver lining. I mean, you can't really call this a silver lining because obviously it's indicative to how apathetic this country is. But you know, even big news events stay within the news cycle for maybe like I don't know 3 days, and then the country kind of collectively forgets about it and moves on because we live in an age where news can just come and go so quickly before we even have time to fully process the information. And especially since this isn't the kind of shooter that the right wanted, again, trans, a leftist, a person of color. I mean, I don't know what the spin will be, what the narrative is going to be now that they actually have the shooter. We'll see, I suppose. My mom said she watched Charlie Kirk and that he was telling biblical truths. Yeah, I mean, I have a uncle in Jersey who apparently was really gutted over Charlie Kirk dying. He called one of my uncles who lives with me, not the uncle that had the stroke, the uncle whose room is next to mine and he's perfectly healthy. Uh, he called my uncle the day Charlie Kirk got shot, so 2 days ago, and he was like so depressed over it. He was also drunk. My that uncle from Jersey is also an alcoholic. And he was like so fucking gutted over Charlie Kirk dying, and my uncle was like, "You don't even know this fucking person. Why are you so distraught over him, dying?" I mean, he said, "Yeah, it's bad what happened, but I don't understand why you're so this is making you so emotional." Especially since it was the day before the 5th anniversary of my grandmother's death. He was like, "It's the day before the 5-year anniversary of your mother's death, and this is what you're gutted over." Crazy. My mom also called Target woke just because they're teaching kids about gender. Target is teaching kids about gender identity? Where the fuck did she hear that? Comedy Central pulled the South Park episode where they had Cartman as Charlie Kirk. Yeah, the media has been really insufferable during all this as well. Basically, whitewashing Charlie Kirk's legacy and painting him as someone who just wanted to have a debate, just wanted to engage in dialogue, and encouraged other people to engage in healthy debate and dialogue, ignoring all the hateful shit he spewed throughout his entire adult life, which, um, no doubt, um, inspired violence against minority groups, and again, probably even deaths of certain people within minority groups. Yeah, ignore all that. He was just some pure, kind-hearted soul who did nothing wrong. Again, nothing he did when he was throughout his entire adult life or his life in general warranted what happened to him. But I'm just saying, like he wasn't like this this kind, pure soul like the media is painting him out to be. I mean, I'm not surprised that Comedy Central is doing that, considering they're owned by Paramount and they, you know, bent the knee to Trump and axed Colbert's show. Which, I mean, I'm not shedding any tears over Stephen Colbert's show going away because, like I said in one video, it was just like lib garbage. That was just like Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad, and Trump is orange. He he he. Uh, Substanceless trash. But no, I don't like the principle of that though. That the president of the United States could get pretty much get shows canceled because they said mean things about him and joked about him and hurt his feelings. Also, as someone who is religious, I'm sick of the bigotry Christians have been pushing. Yeah, I try to differentiate between people who, it could be between Christians who aren't, peddling all the bigotry bullshit and hatred in general, and the more and the Christians who are exactly that. I mean, I'm friends with some people who are Christians. I mean, granted, they're not like hardcore Christians, but or practicing. I mean, but they have some religious beliefs, and I'm fine with that. Not one of those hardline atheists who can't associate with anyone religious, no matter if they're not even that religious at all. I think those people are pretty insufferable. My mom must have heard Terrence K. Williams decry Target as woke since she follows him and watches him. Terrence K. Williams, I forgot about that guy. I remember he was like a big Trump reply guy back during Trump's first term. And I'm sure he's still that now, but I don't use Twitter, so I don't have to be subjected to him. But anyway, enough. I think that's enough Charlie Kirk talk for now. 22 minutes into the stream already. 23 minutes actually. Whoa. Rambled about that long enough. And again, I do plan on making a video about my thoughts surrounding what happened to Charlie Kirk anyway. Well, I mean, if you were watching this stream and, have been listening to me for these last 23 minutes, I suppose you don't have to watch that video since you pretty much know what my thoughts are, but still. How are all of you doing on this fine Friday? 75 degrees today. A little warmer than it has been. Well, yesterday was actually 80 degrees. And but I'm glad the summer heat is gone. I have some friends who are like really sad that summer is pretty much over. I mean, we have like what, a little over a week left of summer now. The heat is gone. And I'm fine with that. Perfectly fine with that. I don't really get why people like summer so much. I mean, I already made a whole video about not liking summer, but still. It's, easily the most popular out of the four seasons, and I just don't get it. I don't like the heat. I don't like the humidity. I usually don't sleep well during the summer, but though this past summer, actually, I've been sleeping perfectly fine. Because we turned on the AC pretty much immediately when it started to get really hot outside. But most other years we don't do that, and I suffer because I can't sleep when it's really hot and humid out, and obviously that also makes the house very hot and humid if we don't have the AC on and have all the windows open. I'm doing well, visiting grandparents. Oh, that's nice. I just have one grandma left, and she's down in Florida, so it's not that easy visiting her. Only visited her once 4 years ago. Been eating more vegetables and drinking more calming tea. I do eat vegetables from time to time. I don't look it, but I do eat vegetables. Tea I don't have all that often. Tea I really only have when I'm sick with a sore throat. That's the only time I really drink tea. My favorite season is autumn because of the holidays, the temperature, and multicolored leaves. Yeah, fall is pretty nice. Admittedly, it always kind of with the leaves on the ground and all that, it always gave me kind of a depressing vibe. I know a lot of people also really like fall. That seems to be like the second most popular season, I believe. Um, I know fall's got Halloween and all that. I mean, I never cared about the whole trick or treating and wearing costumes and all that, but the vibe of Halloween, at least the spirit of Halloween, I like. And we do decorate for Halloween in the because it's fun, and also just for the very unlikely event that we may get trick-or-treaters, which we haven't gotten in years. My neighborhood isn't very festive. When was the last time my house got trick-or-treaters? I think I was still in high school. Remember, I was handing out candy to some kids that rang the doorbell. It was only one group of, like, I think 3 or 4 kids that came, and we didn't get any trick-or-treaters after that. Yeah, my neighborhood doesn't really do Halloween. Oh well. I mean, doesn't really matter to me because I haven't trick-or-treated since 2014 when I was 13. I knew that was going to be the last time I was trick-or-treating. I was like, all right, one last hoorah at the age of 13. Because I was already like kind of like over it. I didn't like, wearing the costumes and wandering around, um, ringing doorbells. And well, I did like getting the candy. That's the one aspect I really, really liked, but everything else I wasn't really a fan of. Again, I like the vibe of Halloween, the spooky vibe, but I haven't, aside from that, I didn't really care for Halloween or the trick or treating aspect of Halloween, I should say. I haven't gone trick or treating since 2015, 10 years ago. Yeah, my last time was, like I said, 2014, year before that. The last time I trick or treated, though, was I trick or treated with some kid that my mom was friends with his mom, and he was going out trick or treating. So, but that kid refused to go to like certain houses that were too spooky. So that kind of ruined the fun a little bit. He had special needs. I didn't really know him all that well. I just really knew him because my mom was friends with his mom. He went to the same elementary school as me, and my mom, when she was unemployed during the recession, she joined my elementary school's PTA, and that's how she met his mom. And that kid also went to the same middle school as me, but he was in the special ed classes, and I wasn't, so I didn't really know him in middle school either. I did go to his house a few times, though. Um, he wasn't the most talkative kid. He was into a lot of the same games I was, though. Um, he had a Wii U. He liked the GameCube as well, but I think his GameCube broke years ago. I tried to make conversation with him, but he didn't really want to talk to me. I was when I was over there. I think I told this story before, but we did exchange phone numbers, but I never called him, and he never tried to contact me until one day. I think around 2018, 2019, he sent me a text that read, uh, "Hi, that is all." Which, if you had a Wii U and a 3DS, you would know that in the friends list have your you could write a little message, and it would appear as a little blurb on top of your me in the friends list app. Um, and I had him added on my Wii U, and I think I might have had him added on my 3DS. I don't remember, but I know I had him added on the Wii U though. But I completely forgot I had him there. So I thought like someone who watched my videos or knew me online somehow got a hold of my phone number and texted me. And I was so ready to write like, "Who the fuck are you? How the fuck did you get this number?" But then I decided to calmly write, "Who is this?" And then the kid said, "It's your friend so and so." And I was like, "Oh, I forgot to put his name down in my contacts list when we exchanged the numbers." So he had just appeared as a random number. Shit. And then the kid got really offended by me asking, "Who is this?" And he hasn't wanted to talk to me since. My bad, I suppose. My second cousin Andy has another baby on the way. I'm not the biggest fan of procreation, but I guess good for him. Like I said in one of my recent videos, I don't really know why anyone would want to bring a kid into this world in the current state it's in, but whatever. More power to him. Congrats, I suppose. I think the last time I trick or treated was 2023. Well, that's recent. I don't have anything against adults who trick or treat. There's like this weird stigma some people have with adults that trick or treat. I made a video years ago about wasn't it Crowder that made some kind of remark about people who dress up for grown adults who dress up for Halloween or man children or something like that. Made a video about that. Some right wing showed. And I've always hated that shit, stomping all over people's fun because, oh, it's not mature or adult like. I'm like, who the fuck cares? I mean, this is likely the only life you live. May as well have as much fun as you can during the only life you live. It's not like, the way our society is set up allows you to have that much fun anyway. So take any opportunity you can. I didn't last year since I had nighttime anxiety for all of 2024, but got over it this year. You didn't what? You didn't sleep? Is that what you mean? I'm glad you're better and you're over your nighttime anxiety. I'm the complete opposite. I function better at night. I much prefer the night over the day, and that's why I'm up at night and I sleep through much of the day. I don't know, I've just always been a night owl. Like like even when I was in school, like the schedule just never jived with me. Having to start your day at 7 in the morning. No, not 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And and having to wake up at 6 in the fucking morning. Fucking hated that shit. Even when I was in school, I'd be up until like I don't know 2 or 3 in the morning and didn't get much, wouldn't get much sleep because I just couldn't get my body just couldn't adjust to that schedule. It just never liked that schedule. The nighttime has always just brought me a lot of comfort, and I've always been more calm during the night as opposed to how I am as opposed to during the day. I guess since the night is quiet and there's not many people out and about at night compared to during the day. That's what calms my nerves. I've noticed I'm more prone to depression during the day than I am at night. I know a lot of people are the opposite. The night can bring them depression, and the day brings them you know the day calms them down. But I've just always preferred the night over the day, and that's why I'm always awake until ungodly hours of the night, or I should say the morning, when people are starting their day. When most people are starting their day, that's when I'm just going to sleep. Saw the Nintendo Direct today and saw that the Mario Galaxy games are getting Switch ports, which means I might sell my copy of 3D All Stars. I don't know why that means you have to sell your copy of 3D All Stars, since I believe that's still the only way you could. Well, no, actually, I mean, doesn't the Switch 2 GameCube online service have Sunshine now? So that's not the only way to play Sunshine on a Switch 2, at least. I don't know. I mean, you do you, but I don't know. I don't think that necessarily means you have to get rid of your copy of 3D All Stars. But yes, Mario Galaxy 2 is finally getting a Switch port. Is it a Switch port, or is it just coming to Switch 2? I didn't watch the direct. I just heard that the games are getting a bundle. If it's coming to both the Switch and Switch 2, then I might buy a copy, since the Galaxy games are my favorite Mario games. 3D Mario games, at least. And I'd like to play them again, because I didn't buy 3D All Stars because that didn't appeal to me. You know, I didn't like that 3D All Stars just had a Galaxy One, and I already had I already have a copy of Mario Sunshine. Funnily enough, I bought my copy of Mario Sunshine just around the time 3D All Stars launched. There was a big it came down in price a lot. Before that collection, I think Sunshine was around $70 or $80, the GameCube version, and then that went down to around $40 or $50, I think, right when the collection came out. Same thing happened when the Thousand Year Door port released. The GameCube version decreased dramatically in price. And of course, I've played Mario 64 a whole bunch of times, and I think the DS version is the superior version. So, all the more reason for me not to give a shit about 3D All Stars when that came out. But again, I am happy that, finally, um, Galaxy 2 is getting a modern release. I think it's stupid they left it out of 3D All Stars, and I think it's stupid that 3D All Stars was a fucking only out for a limited time. I don't know why they did that outside of, creating artificial scarcity for the hell of it. And they know that would, cause people to run to the store and buy it because they know they only have a limited time to buy it. Just fucking scummy behavior on Nintendo's part. But I shouldn't be surprised that Nintendo is engaging in scumfuck behavior because it's Nintendo. But yeah, I didn't watch the direct today. I only caught a whiff of some news that came out of it because I don't really care that much about Nintendo anymore outside of playing my GameCube. I mean, again, there are some releases that entice me, but all in all, I'm not like a huge Nintendo fan anymore. I've been through this a million times. More of a Sony guy these days. But I did hear like another Mario movie is coming or something like that. Mario Galaxy movie, which that's cool, I guess. I don't know if I'll see it. I don't really care enough to see it. But the first Mario movie was just okay. I wasn't exactly clamoring for a sequel, even though I knew a sequel was most definitely coming. There's nothing I'm dying to see, so it's just whatever to me. I did mean that I got over the nighttime anxiety. Yes, yeah, I know. Mentioned that. It's a port of both games. I know that too. There's going to be a physical release, right? It's not just going to be something they dump on the eShop. I hope. I believe it said Switched 1, not Switch 2. Oh, it's not getting a native Switch 2 port. Neither game are getting it. Both games are not getting a native Switch 2 port. Oh, well. I'm glad it's heading over to Switch 1 as well because I'm not like I'm still not um I'm still not you know someone who is that enthusiastic about buying the Switch 2, so I'm fine with it coming to Switch 1. And I mean there are ports of games that came out and Galaxy 1 came out in what 2007 and Galaxy 2 came out in 2011 I think. So not like they're games that, necessarily need to be like exclusive to current gen hardware, but you know, still I think a native Switch 2 port of both games would have been nice as well, but whatever. To Switch 1. And again, I'm fine with that since all I have is still a Switch 1. And again, I'm not tempted to upgrade just yet. I'm not one of those people who are like, so against ever buying a Switch 2, and I've never claimed to be. It's just that, there's nothing really enticing out that's exclusive to the Switch 2 just yet. So I'm not like, and I'm not like, I don't really feel any need to rush out and buy one just yet. I saw a copy of Code Veronica X for the GameCube being sold for $139 at GameStop recently. Yeah, I got lucky. I had to buy the two discs separately. It's one of the games on GameCube that had to be divided into two discs. Um, I'm not gonna say it was cheap, but I was able to buy, both discs separately for a reasonable price that didn't add up to $100 plus. I mean, if you want to play Code Veronica, just I mean, it's on the PlayStation Store for a much more reasonable price. The only reason the GameCube version is so pricey is because the GameCube version bombed, so there's not many copies out there, and it's considered rare, I guess. Well, not super super rare like that fucking Pokemon thing. It wasn't even a real Pokemon game, just something to like hold your Pokemon monsters on that they released very few copies of for the GameCube, which is like what, $4,000 now or $3,000. Yeah, no, thank you. Even if I was a hardcore Pokemon fan, I don't think I would be. Yeah, I don't think I'd be clamoring to buy that. But yeah, Code Veronica is a good game, though. I'll always stand by that. I think that game gets way too much hate. I mean, yeah, there is some shit in there that annoys me. And I'm like, yeah, I can understand why people wouldn't like this game for these certain aspects. But all in all, I still enjoyed the game more than most people seem to. Same thing with Resident Evil Zero, another Resident Evil game that gets a lot of hate that I've never hated as much as most people. Maybe I'm just a blind Resident Evil fanboy. Chris Pratt is Mario again. Yeah, I didn't doubt that. I'm assuming they're bringing back the whole cast from the first movie. In this movie, what's his name? Charlie Day is Luigi, and Taylor, Anna, whatever the fuck her name is Peach. They showed more footage of the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. It'll be digital only at first and get a physical release in December. I don't like that shit. I mean, I'm not. I don't care about Mortal Kombat or fighting games, but just the principle of releasing a game digitally first and then the physical release comes out later. Don't like that. It's not egregious as what they did with Alan Wake 2, where you had to wait over a year for the physical version to release. And that's when I finally got the game. Well, I got the game for my birthday, actually, but still, I didn't want to support that, releasing a whole AAA game only digitally. I don't want to support like another, you know, blow to physical copies, physical media, I should say. Because I love physical media when it comes to games, at least. I have a whole game. Well, of course, I mean, every GameCube game released physically, but I have a whole GameCube rack over there, and I have a PlayStation rack over there. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I do buy games digitally sometimes. Like if I find a better deal on the PlayStation Store than on eBay or other online retailers, then okay, I'll get the game digitally. Or if the game is even being offered free on the PlayStation Store, then of course I'll download it on there. But all in all, I like still, owning games physically. There's a certain satisfaction I feel when I get a new game and I can actually like hold the box in my hands. Like the Resident Evil 4 remake, for example. That was easily the game I was hyped for the most in these last, 5 or so years since I started gaming again. I was super duper hyped for that remake to come out. And I had to wait a few days for the game to be delivered when I could have, just easily have bought the game on the PlayStation Store the day it released. But when my copy arrived, I opened the packaging and I was finally holding the box for the game I was so hyped for in my hands. I mean that's an experience that buying games digitally just can't fucking replace. Code Veronica sounds familiar. It's a Resident Evil game. They also were selling the SNES version of Final Fantasy VI for $50. There's a retro game store right by me that I've been to a couple of times, and I always go to the GameCube section first, but unfortunately, it's always just like shovelware that's there, the licensed games, movie based games, all that shit, and games no one really cares about and, obviously aren't valuable at all. You know, the guy at the store, one of the guys at the store tells me, every time they get like one of the more, sought after GameCube games, that is snatched up right away. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's no. I pretty much have all the GameCube games I want in my collection at this point, so I'm not like dying to get more GameCube games at this point. I guess the only GameCube game I really want at this point is Chibi Robo. I hear a lot of good things about that game, and um, I know it got, I know it released recently or is going to be released on the GameCube's online service on the Switch too. I don't know if that affected the price at all though. I'm pretty sure it's still like $150 just for the fucking disc. Like if the disc alone was reasonably priced, preferably under $100, I would have the game by now. I'm not crazy about getting the official box and all the inserts, the manual and shit. But yeah, I mean, if I have to pay like at least $150 just for the fucking disc or around that price, yeah, I'm not, it's not worth it for me. At least not at this time. Someday I might have it in my collection though. But it's not a game I'm like dying to get. I am playing on my GameCube again. Just recently finished Ocarina of Time, the GameCube port again. My second favorite Zelda game, very close second behind Wind Waker. And now I'm playing the Resident Evil 2 port, obviously the original, the port on GameCube. Still my favorite version of the game. I don't like how the remake botched the different scenarios. The remake is great in many aspects, but that's easily the biggest blemish. Oh, where the fuck did I leave off? I got like an influx of messages while I was rambling. Here. Yep, the whole cast is back. Yeah, I assumed, and easily the best performance of the first movie. Not Charlie, Jack Black as Bowser. You're not gonna fucking believe what I almost just said. I almost said Charlie Kirk as Bowser. Yeah, that would have been something, right? Yeah, I assumed he was coming back in the second movie as well. I liked how Peach was in the first movie, and same with Bowser. I'll never get over when the trailer for the first movie first released. How so many people were freaking the fuck out that the movie was going to be woke when when it depicted Peach as not, the useless damsel in distress like she is in the games. They're like, "Oh my god, a strong female character, woke, woke." And then the movie came out and was a huge success, and those people shut the fuck up because they knew they would get a lot of shit if they were to, trash the movie. But yeah, I did like Peach in the first movie as well. Again, much prefer how she was depicted in the movie than how she is in the games. Most of the games, at least. Maybe they're finally breaking the whole damsel in distress thing, considering that Peach got her own game last year where she was anything but a damsel. I played that game. She was like a ninja, a fencer, a whole bunch of different things, and I'm like, how the fuck does this person get kidnapped all the time? Japan's National Diet Library has said the game key cards on the Switch 2 are not eligible for preservation. I mean, that doesn't surprise me, considering how anti-preservation Nintendo is. Easily the worst of the big three when it comes to preservation. Hey Mikey, I'm finally at Georgia. Oh yeah, didn't you used to live in Florida? I'm glad you got out, especially considering, the recent, ban on vaccine mandates in Florida. I'm glad you got out of there. And you definitely got out of there at the best time. Holy shit. I feel bad for any decent person who is still in Florida. Like at this point, I just say, like, if you have the means to do so, get the fuck out. Seriously, just get out. I have no interest in going to Florida ever again. My grandma comes up here, usually a couple of times a year. So it's not like it's much of an incentive for me to go down to Florida to see her when she does. Pretty much all of her family is here in New York, so she has more incentive to come up here than I have incentive to go down there. I do hope she stays safe though, since she obviously she just turned 80, and with the elimination of vaccine mandates, Florida is basically a fucking a prime place to like spread around viruses and plagues and all that, whatever the fuck will pop up in the future. That would surely be very bad if she were to catch. Oh yeah, Resident Evil. I have the Resident Evil 2 remake on the PS4. Oh yeah, you like it? I like it. Again, not really a fan of how they kind of botched the multiple scenarios in the remake. I think that was handled much better. I liked how Leon and Claire's stories intersected a lot more in the original compared to the remake, but aside from that, it's still a great remake. I'm finally out of Florida. Yeah, yeah, I knew you were in Florida. You would bring that up a lot in the chat. And again, I'm I'm glad you got out, and like anyone, again, anyone who is a decent person and is still in Florida, again, if you have the means to do so, I know, moving from one state to another is not an easy process nor a cheap one, but again, if you have the means to do so, I do not recommend staying in Florida. It really is just a fucking wretched state. That's too bad since, all the tourist attractions. And when I was down in Florida, I mean, the scenery at least was nice. The weather I wasn't really a fan of, the extreme weather events. Florida is also, a prime target for hurricanes. Not a fan of that. You know, that alone is why I wouldn't want to live down in Florida. Horrendous politics aside, but factoring in on top of that the horrendous politics I just mentioned, yeah, definitely do not ever want to live in Florida. I am perfectly happy here in New York. And I know NYC gets a reputation of being, the loud city. There's always cars and buses rolling by. And there are some people who obviously have never stepped foot in NYC and think all of NYC is like Manhattan when it is not. I mean, I live in a pretty quiet neighborhood. Maybe it's not as quiet as like a place, in like a fucking rural area, obviously, but it's still, for at least NYC, relatively quiet where I am and peaceful. So I'm perfectly happy with where I live. I've heard of Chibi Robo from Scott the Waz. I've seen some Scott the Waz videos. The video of his I remember the most is his GameCube retrospective video. I really liked that. I know he's really popular, but I've only seen maybe like a handful of videos from him, and nothing much else beyond that. Recently, right wingers were calling a Gap ad woke. Why was this ad woke? I assume it was a contrast to the ad, like all of the right was soying out over with Sydney Sweeney, where she was like, "I have good genes" or whatever the fuck. No, definitely. At best, that was a really fucking tone deaf uh, joke, I guess. And at worst, it was like, directly playing into, like far right extremism that is, on the rise in this country. I didn't really want to talk about that though. I really didn't fucking care about the fucking Sydney Sweeney ad thing. Not that I don't think it wasn't problematic, but it wasn't anything I was like super interested in talking about in a video or anything, because at the end of the day, I really don't fucking give a shit about most celebrities' political affiliations, most certainly not Sydney Sweeney's. Like, oh wow, rich blonde white girl is a Republican. What a big surprise. It's been a few weeks since I played it, but both of my controllers need to be charged, so I had to stop playing that day. I see. I've gone through two PlayStation controllers, PS5 controllers, I should say, because of stick drift. So I hope Nintendo the sticks on the Switch 2's Joy Cons are better, much better, and much more durable than the Switch One's Joy Cons. The sticks on the Switch One's Joy Cons. I kind of doubt it, but I've never actually really looked into how much better the sticks are on the Switch 2, if they are better. YouTube notification. What is this? The Arch Fiend. So the Charlie Kirk assassin was not some crazy liberal trans leftist. Liberal leftist. Wow. I like his videos, Arch Fiends, but he's just kind of his political takes are kind of pretty hit or miss. The Incredibles has been trending on Instagram, and it kind of became my favorite Pixar movie. I loved The Incredibles as a kid. It's been a long time since I saw the movie. I used to like the Incredibles game as well. I had that for GameCube. I still have it. I played it as recently as I think 2021. I remember not really caring for it all that much as an adult. Um, wasn't as good as I remembered it being when I was a kid. But same thing goes for a lot of things, I suppose, when you enter adulthood. A lot of shows and movies and games you might have liked as a kid, and you experience them again as an adult, and the magic just isn't there anymore, and you kind of realize that maybe it was never that good in the first place. Same thing with the game called Battle for Volcano Island that was also released on the GameCube that I played oh so much as a little kid. Basically, that game was like my childhood Resident Evil 4, as in a game I could play multiple times, again and again and again, and never get sick of. That was that game for me as a kid. Um, it was basically, if you don't know what the game was, it had SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, Timmy Turner, and a bunch of other Nicktoons characters on an island, and they had to fight a monster that was like inside a volcano or whatever the fuck. Kind of a silly premise, but I used to love that game so much as a kid, and it was a co-op game. I used to play it all the time with my father, to the point my father would get fucking sick of the game. Um, but I loved it, and he was like, "You don't want to play something else? You want to keep playing this same game?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I love this game." But I played it again at the age of 19. I can't say I felt the same way about the game. I didn't really enjoy it all that much, and I have looked that game up online, and it's not really fondly remembered by a lot of people either. A lot of people don't like that game. Uh, it just goes to show that nostalgia could really cloud your perception of something. Because before I replayed the game as an adult, I did fondly look back at that game and remembered how much joy it brought me as a kid. And I thought, surely it had to still be a really good game, right? No, not really. And now, like I said, the game I can play over and over again without ever getting tired of it is Resident Evil 4. That applies to both the original and the remake, both masterpieces. French kiss, chef kiss, or whatever. I remember when I saw The Incredibles in theaters. Did I see The Incredibles in theaters? I was only, what, 4 when that movie came out? The movie came out in, what, 2005? I don't know. Obviously, I wouldn't remember, but my parents probably would have told me if they took me to see it, since I was so young when it came out. But no, I don't think I ever saw it in theaters. My parents didn't take me. And I've said it before. I have seen every Shrek movie in theaters, even the first one. Even though the first one came out when I was only like a month old, my parents went to took me as an infant to go see the movie for whatever reason. Nick has their racing game called Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, and Jenny has been added to the game since 2022. She's from that robot show, right? Teenage Robot or whatever. I should remember the name off the top of my head since I did like that show as a kid. But it wasn't a show that I watched like all the time or was super duper into, like SpongeBob, for example. SpongeBob was easily my favorite Nicktoon as a kid. As generic as that is to say, it was. I loved SpongeBob so much as a kid, and I still love SpongeBob. Well, the early seasons. I'm sure you could guess what my all-time favorite cartoon is. But yeah, I also liked Fairly Odd Parents a lot as a kid as well, though I don't really care for FOP that much these days. Was way more of a Cartoon Network kid though. Cartoon Network had way more shows that I liked. Never cared for Disney Channel as a kid. Like I knew some kids in my school that liked the Disney Channel shows, and they would talk about Disney Channel shows sometimes, and I would have no idea what the fuck they're talking about because I didn't watch Disney Channel for some reason. So I have no nostalgia surrounding the big Disney Channel staples of some people's childhoods, like Phineas and Ferb is a big one. Um, Other shows that I'm blanking on because I didn't see them as a kid. But I know My Life as a Teenage Robot is still really popular. I know it's also really popular with trans people. I know that's a big show within that community. I kick my 5-year-old self for not liking Avatar: The Last Airbender, though. I remember every time that show would go on Nickelodeon, I would change the channel because I was like, Avatar is so boring. Because I think I did try the show out once or twice and watched an episode or two, and I thought it was like really boring when I was a kid. I don't think that now. I've watched the show as an adult, and I think it's a great show now. But when I was a kid, I thought the show was really boring, and I was like, I want SpongeBob on. I want Fairly Odd Parents on. I don't want to watch this bald kid do shit with the air. But I guess that show wasn't very appealing to kids that young. I'm sure like the target demographic for Avatar was like older kids and teens, since it was much more like slower paced and a show you like had to like pay a lot more attention to because it was very plot driven, unlike something like SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents. My Life as a Teenage Robot is still my favorite Nicktoon of all time. Yeah, again, like I said, I know a lot of people really like that show, and I liked that show as a kid. Again, it wasn't a cartoon like I was like super duper into as a kid, but if I happened to put on Nickelodeon and that show was on, I would watch it. I remember when Cars came out, and I used to hyperfixate on it a lot as a little boy. I remember an aunt of mine. Well, she's not an aunt by blood. My uncle from Jersey married her like 20 years ago. But anyway, um, she stole my copy of Cars. I had the DVD, and I used to like watching that a lot. And she took it. She was an immigrant, and it was like something like, "Oh, I want this DVD so I could learn English or something." Why you would use Cars to learn English, I don't fucking know. But she stole it. Obviously, that wasn't the real reason why she took the DVD. But yeah, I never got that DVD back. That was so weird. I don't know what the real reason was why she wanted it. Maybe she sold it. I don't know. Can't imagine it would sell for that much though. Not like I had the fucking VHS copy of the Cars movie that apparently is like worth thousands of dollars. Only ever saw the first Cars movie though. Never saw the second one. Though I've heard terrible things about the second one. There's a third one, right? I think. Incredibles came out in 2004. I think that's the same year Shrek 2 came out, which I saw in theaters when that came out. I think I have vague memories of seeing Shrek 2 in theaters, but the only two Shrek movies I remember clearly seeing in theaters was Shrek 3 and Shrek 4. Shrek 5 was delayed because everyone guessed the plot. Was that really why it was delayed? I heard it was delayed, but I didn't actually look into the reason why it was. I remember the teaser for it what got flamed because there was like some stupid hip "how you doing fellow kids" kind of shit. They're like referencing like TikTok memes or whatever. Did Shrek really need to come back? I mean, it already had a movie that was considered the final movie. It was literally called Forever After, right? Nostalgia is a big a big seller these days. So why not? Obviously, that's the main reason why it was brought back. The only Disney Channel show I ever cared for was Phineas and Ferb. Yeah, I know. I've heard a lot of things about Phineas and Ferb. How that was like a staple of so many childhoods. Particularly like older Gen Z. The childhoods of like people who are older Gen Z. But I never saw Phineas and Ferb as a kid. The most Phineas and Ferb I ever saw was I think at a cousin's house on my father's side. He used to like Disney Channel, and he would have Disney Channel on his TV. And I think a couple of times when I was there, Phineas and Ferb would be on the TV, but I wouldn't pay attention. So I guess I missed out as a kid. I don't know, but I have obviously no nostalgia surrounding Phineas and Ferb. Can't tell you a single thing about Phineas and Ferb besides it stars like two brothers, I think. There's like a scientist too and a platypus or whatever. That's all I know. The only other Disney Channel show I have any vague familiarness with is Kim Possible. Because the same cousin who would have Disney Channel on his TV. Sometimes Kim Possible would be playing, and I know that stars like a high school girl or whatever who's also a spy, and she does spy shit. I guess I can't tell you anything beyond that. Oh yeah, and there's also some blonde kid in the show that looks like a cartoon version of someone I know in real life, and I've only made that connection because some other friends have made that connection. It was funny. I went to see Cars 1 the day it came out. There were a lot of Cub Scouts leaving the showing before the one I went to see. And that's cool, I suppose. I actually don't remember a whole lot about Cars. I know obviously it starred like a race car or whatever. He was like famous for winning races or whatever, and there was a pickup truck character, and I don't remember much actually. And it's so weird because I used to watch that movie so much as a kid and loved it a lot, but obviously it's been over 15 years since I've seen the movie, so that's probably why I don't remember much about it. I'm a cis girl and I love my life as a teenage robot. Yeah, I wasn't saying it was like only trans people who were fans of the show. Don't get me misinterpreted if you did misinterpret what I said, but I'm just saying like I've noticed there's like a big like trans following of the show online. I remember thinking as a kid that I wouldn't like Avatar because I thought it didn't have a sense of humor or action. Your kid you was wrong on both fronts. That show is, that does have a healthy blend of humor and seriousness, and also has a good bit of action in it. But then I watched 2 episodes of Avatar and was amazed by its high quality writing and animation. Well, you were definitely a smarter kid than me when it came to Avatar because again, I was used to cartoons like, oh, one of my neighbors is backing up. You may probably hear that, whatever. Anyway, I was used to cartoons like SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents, cartoons that didn't have, an overarching plot and, wasn't weren't serious at all. So, yeah, that's why I wasn't super into Avatar when I was a kid. And of course, a lot of the Cartoon Network shows I watched when I was a little kid, you know, weren't like that either. I think Up was the first Pixar movie I've seen in theaters. Up, yeah. I saw that in theaters with a friend when it came out. Up is a great movie, though. The opening sequence is really hard for me to watch because of how, bittersweet it is, how depressing it is, with the whole passage of life thing. Yeah, that's the only thing that kind of deters me from watching the movie. I didn't really understand the opening that much when I saw it as a kid, though. Like, it was funny, all the adults in the theater were crying, including my friend's mom, who took me and that friend to see the movie. She was crying, and I was perfectly fine because I didn't really understand the opening that well when I first saw the movie as a kid. I remember Nickelodeon had a show called The X's about a spy family, but they never gave it a home media release, and f- aside from some episodes on DVD collections. I think I might remember that show. Yeah, something about a spy family. Was it like supposed to be Nickelodeon's Kim Possible or whatever? Yeah, that show, I don't think it lasted very long. Since it never got a home media release, or some episodes considered lost media. Also, hi everyone. Hello, Olin. How are you doing? I like late 90s to early 2000s Disney Channel. By the way, Disney Channel actually had a block that led to all the teen stuff called Disney. Before that, it was a cable service back in 1983 to 1996, but would eventually become a cable service channel in 1997. I never heard of Zoog Disney. Well, I wasn't alive in the '90s, so that's probably why I didn't know about that block. I also have a cousin on my mother's side who liked a lot of the live action Disney stuff, the sitcoms, Miley Cyrus and Wavy Wizards or whatever that show was called. Never saw episodes, never saw a single episode of either show or any other Disney sitcom that was really big that I don't remember. The X's is on the director's Vimeo account aside from two episodes. I believe all episodes can be found, but they're recorded from a Nickelodeon broadcast, so they're low quality. Huh. Well, at least the episodes have been preserved in some capacity. I thought when you said it never got a home media release, I thought for sure like certain episodes, or hell, maybe even the whole show, was considered lost. It's always crazy though when you hear about something you remember watching as a kid that ended up becoming lost media. I have a few examples of that. Um, there was some uh, Jimmy Neutron special thing that was a parody of Mystery Science Theater 3000. I forget the name of the special, but it was Jimmy Sheen and Carl. You see their silhouettes at the bottom watching the Jimmy Neutron movie, and I remember watching this and having no idea what the fuck was I was watching. I mean, I knew they were watching the Jimmy Neutron movie, but I was wondering what's with this whole thing about their silhouettes at the bottom and them commentating over the movie. I thought it was weird, but the weird factor was what made me want to watch it as a kid. This special premiered when I was like 5 or 6. So obviously back then I didn't know what Mystery Science Theater 3000 was. I've since, of course, learned what the show was, and I actually do kind of like that show, certain episodes at least. Um, and also, anyone remember a Nickelodeon game show called Brain Surge? That was what it was called. Since learned that certain episodes of that show are considered lost media now, and I was like, wow. I remember I used to love that show when I was a kid. I actually completely forgot about it until I heard, channels like Blame It on George talk about certain episodes being lost, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that that certain episodes of that show are lost. Shit. Nickelodeon used to premiere that all the time. Used to show that all the time. I know of a Disney Channel sitcom called Jessie, which was supposed to be about diversity and inclusion, but instead of well written characters, the characters are ethnic and gender stereotypes. I think I've heard of Jessie, but I never seen a single episode of it. Same thing with every other Nickelodeon sitcom, like I just mentioned. I didn't know about that though. That sucks. I remember Zoog Disney. I remember it came after Playhouse Disney's block. It's funny. I didn't care about the regular Disney Channel, but when I was a little kid, I used to like watching Playhouse Disney. Forget what shows were on Playhouse Disney exactly, but I did like watching the Playhouse Disney block as a when I was like really little, when I was like 3 or 4. But when I got a little older, I never watched regular Disney Channel. It was just Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon I would stick to. Mostly Cartoon Network, like I've said. It's honestly kind of annoying when people complain about stuff aimed at adolescents. Well, I mean, that kind of depends. I mean, you can critique stuff that is aimed at at a demographic that is not your own if it's like a legitimately bad piece of media. Like I don't believe in just showing a little kid just any fucking slop that might be aimed at them. But at the same time, I don't like take cartoons and all that shit super seriously because there is still a level of acknowledgement that maybe I just don't like this certain cartoon, or maybe a lot of people online just don't like this certain cartoon or movie that is aimed at kids because they're not part of the prime target demographic. The Jimmy Neutron special has actually been found a while back. Yeah, I know. I've heard. I think it was you that told me that it was found. I have seen it again, not in its entirety, but I watched snippets of it and I was like, oh yeah, I remember watching this as a kid and I thought it was so fucking weird because I had no clue it was a Mystery Science Theater 3000 parody. In the not too distant future, next Sunday AD. I loved Brain Surge as well. Yeah, I used to love that show a lot as a kid. And that's why it kind of surprised me when I learned that, not every episode of that show was preserved. Because Nickelodeon would air that show a lot, or at least it seemed like they aired it a lot when I was a kid. This is when I was like 8 or 9, so we're talking around like 2009, 2010, I think. You know, it was definitely the only game show on Nickelodeon I gave a shit about. Remember when I was a kid, I wanted to be on that show, though I've never actually like looked into like applying, or if you could even apply. I don't know if they just like got child actors to go on it or something. It was the only game show I ever sat down and watched. Well, it's not the only game show I've sat down and watched. These days, I like watching Price is Right every once in a while with my uncle in the living room. He likes watching Bob Barker era episodes of The Price is Right. Sometimes I like watching along with him. There was a Nickelodeon movie that aired only once on Halloween called Crybaby Lane a long time ago. It was lost media until a VHS recording of it was found. Yeah, I heard of that as well, but I never heard of the movie before hearing about it being lost media, so I wasn't like very interested in learning more about it. Yeah, I know some like Nickelodeon horror movie that aired in the 90s or whatever and got lost to time until someone found a recording of it. They would then re-air the movie a few times over the years on their nostalgia blocks on T-Nick. Oh, it's cool that Nickelodeon acknowledged the movie after it being found. I didn't know they aired reruns of it since. It's funny though, they would make a whole ass movie only to air it once and then never give it a release. All that time and resources to make that movie, only for it to just again air once and not be and Nickelodeon not even bothering to preserve it. It was only by luck that someone found a recording of it. Well, I mean, obviously Nickelodeon preserved it. I mean, they had the movie. It's like at their studio, but you know what I mean. Not like preserve it for the masses. I remember when people would shit on Miley Cyrus, but it's usually like, why this teen junk? I want my old retro cartoons back. This was based on a forum I read there. I read there were some people shitting on Zoog Disney for ruining the Disney Channel. Well, I mean, I never watched Miley Cyrus's sitcom. Hannah Montana, it's called. How can I fucking blank on the name? Um, Again, I had a cousin who liked that show when she was a kid, at least, and I think she did like Miley's stuff when she, started her solo career. Um, but yeah, I'm in no position to like judge Hannah Montana because I have never seen a whole episode front to back. Frankly, I'm not very interested in seeing a whole episode front to back. Um, but yeah, I can't like shit on it or anything because I don't know much about it aside from like it's about like a teen pop singer or whatever. Her day to day life. I don't know actually what that show is about aside from that. The fixation on the Miley Cyrus when she first started her solo career was really weird looking back at it though. Like when she did the VMA thing when she was in like pretty, just in like a bikini. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, she was just on the Disney Channel. How could she act like this?" She's a grown fucking woman now. Like, she's obviously not gonna like make stuff appealing to kids anymore. One of the last things made involving Jimmy Neutron was a Chrysler Town and Country ad. I didn't know that. I don't believe I've ever seen this ad, or maybe I did as a kid. I don't fucking know, but I have no memory of it. I never really cared for Disney Channel much either. Yeah. I mean, well, actually, in my school, I noticed a lot of kids mostly like Cartoon Network. There were some kids in my elementary school who would fight over which channel is better, Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, and I was one of the Cartoon Network kids. I mean, I didn't fight with any kids about this, but I would mostly like observe that some kids were like really hardcore defenders of Cartoon Network, and some others were really hardcore defenders of Nickelodeon, and try to argue that this network has the better shows, that network has the better shows, and well, none of the kids really brought up Disney Channel. Speaking of Jimmy Neutron, I really wish it hadn't been canceled. Was it canceled? I thought it actually like got a proper ending. I don't remember actually. Yeah, and then a few years later, I got that spin-off show where Sheen was on a planet and talked with aliens or whatever. I remember watching that as a kid. Actually, I remember when that show premiered. I was really sick. Actually, I remember it aired. It first premiered. I think it was a Sunday night, and I watched. I remember watching it, but not really paying attention to it because I was really sick and I was gonna miss school the next day because of how sick I was. I think that was the night it aired. Could be wrong. Maybe I was watching a rerun right after the episode aired, or a few days after it aired. I mean, I really enjoyed watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire when Regis was the host. Yeah, I saw some episodes of that as well. My uncle would watch some episodes of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire as well. Mostly just remember the episode where one of the contestants actually won the $1 million. The guy who called his dad right before he won, making the audience think that he was calling his dad for help, but he was actually like, I just want to let you know I'm about to win $1 million. That was badass. There was also a Nickelodeon movie called Swindle that aired a lot during the Nick Studio 10 era. Well, that was around when I stopped watching Nickelodeon, so I don't know what Swindle is. Never heard of it. Wrecking Ball flashbacks. Oh, the Miley Cyrus song. Oh yeah, I remember when that song was really big and the video caused a lot of controversy because she was naked on that wrecking ball in the video. People were like clutching pearls over that as well. That song was a meme too back when it came out. A lot of Nick Studio 10 has lost media too. Well, Archfiend would rejoice at that. I don't know if much of what Nick Studio 10 put out was really worth preserving anyway. I also remember seeing an episode of Planet Sheen. Now, I don't really remember much of Planet Sheen. I know it didn't last that long, and I know people didn't like it. I thought it was alright as a kid, though I'm sure if I watched it again as an adult, I wouldn't like it that much. But as a kid, I thought it was alright. And I did like Sheen as a kid. He was the funniest character in Jimmy Neutron, for me at least, when I was a kid. So that made him my favorite character in Jimmy Neutron. Though I don't think he made for a good main character. He was more like, the comic relief character in Jimmy Neutron. Jimmy Neutron was canceled because Nickelodeon felt the audience was declining and they felt it cost too much to make. Then the studio shut down because Ant Bully flopped so hard. I don't know what Ant Bully is. Yeah, it was a fully CGI show back in the early to mid 2000s. I'd imagine it costed quite a bit more to make than most of their other cartoons. Yeah, too bad. Jimmy Neutron was unceremoniously canceled. Unless it did get a proper finale. I don't remember what episode Jimmy Neutron ended with. Do you know Le Boobus? They are currently trending with kids, and they honestly look honestly they look ugly as fuck. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. I don't know what is popular with kids and teens, and hell, I don't even know a lot of what's popular with people my age. I don't pay attention to stuff like that a whole lot. So no, I don't know what that is. I remember enjoying Butch Hartman's Tough Puppy on Nickelodeon, which was also canceled. I remember that show. Didn't that show premiere around the same time the Sheen show I mentioned? I remember watching that show when I was a kid. I wasn't super into it though. I know it was made by the same people who made um, Fairly Odd Parents, which was what made me interested in seeing it. I think they would even advertise Tough Puppy as from the creators of Fairly Odd Parents, and I was like, oh, I like Fop, so I like this show too. And I did like the show as a kid, at least. I don't know how I would feel about it now if I were to see it again as an adult, but again, as a kid, I thought it was entertaining. Um, I don't remember how long Tough Puppy lasted though. I enjoyed Tough Puppy. There was a guy who cheated to the million pounds question in the UK version by listening for coughs. I also remember watching The Mighty Bee. I used to really like The Mighty Bee as a kid. I know a lot of people don't like that show for reasons. But no, I liked The Mighty Bee when I was little. That show aired around the time I think I was 8 or 9, something like that. I know definitely like, around 2008, 2009, 2010, around there. I don't know. I know people rag on that show now, but I liked it as a kid, so it served its purpose there, I suppose. Same thing with Back at the Barnyard. A lot of people shit on that show now and say it was a bad show, but I liked it a lot as a kid. I knew a lot of kids who liked Barnyard as well. They loved that show. I liked the movie as well. I had a copy of the movie on DVD. I probably still have it, but it's been years since I've seen it. I always hated the interruptions during Nick's Studio 10 and seeing them waste food. Well, I can't relate to the frustration people had surrounding Nick Studio 10 because again, that was around when I stopped watching Nickelodeon and cartoon channels in general. So I didn't get to see any of the Nick Studio 10 ads when they or Nick Studio 10 interruptions, I should say, when they actually aired. I wonder who the fuck thought that would be a good idea to interrupt shows with these stupid comedy skits. I mean, if they were doing it like solely during ad breaks, then fine. Honestly, I wouldn't mind them interrupting ads since I fucking hate ads, but during the actual shows, I'd imagine a lot of kids didn't like seeing that. They weren't very entertained by it. They were like, what the fuck is this stupid bullshit that's airing during SpongeBob? About the ant bully, Zach Tyler Eisen Aang's voice was in the ant bully as Lucas. Again, I don't know what the ant bully is. Never seen it, or at least I don't think I've seen it. There's a thing where Gen Alpha kids are going into old memes and accusing the uploader of stealing from a Roblox game called Steal a Brain Rot. What? I don't know anything about that. I don't know what the fuck Gen Alpha is into. I mean, of course I wouldn't know since I'm 24 years old, but I mean, I've caught some whiffs of what they're into, like the skibbity toilet thing and all that. And I'm just like, it's like shit that's from a completely different planet. I don't understand the appeal. I don't really understand the memes in general, like the weird sounds, like "gyat" or whatever the fuck, and joking about Ohio. Which I mean, to be fair, I mean Ohio deserves to be clowned on, but yeah, I mean I don't really get any of that. I honestly never understand the some trends going on within younger generations. What I mean is how they obsess over them. Well, I mean, when I was younger, there were a fair share of dumb trends and sayings that the kids in my school would repeat over and over and over again. Like I remember the stupid, annoying, what are those trend when people would, with maybe like kids with pairs of shoes that aren't extravagant or like like the super well known brands like Nikes and Jordans or whatever. They would have these dumb kids going up to them pointing at their shoes and going like, what are those? And I think that's just really fucking. I thought that was really stupid even back then. Probably even ranted about that on Meverse because I know that was big when I was still using Meverse. I don't remember. Probably did, but yeah, I mean, I view that as problematic now because I'm sure that led to like poverty shaming for lower privileged kids whose parents probably couldn't afford the more well known brands like Nikes and Jordans, and obviously couldn't you know um um afford like higher tiered shoes, so they just get them like regular sneakers that are on from like well known brands. And I'm sure that some of that, I'm sure it resulted in some bullying too. I remember I got the what are those thing. I got the what are those thing said to me as well. The meme. I remember one time. This was when I was in my freshman year of high school. I think one kid said to me, "What are those?" And I just said shoes, and I just kept walking. I didn't really think it was that much of a zinger, but I guess it was because I remember one of the other dumb fucks standing around him was like, "Oh." People would pick fights over a Stanley Cup, and those cups look mid too. Why would people pick fights over a cup? I'm Gen Z and in my 20s, and I don't understand Gen Alpha. Well, unless you have a sibling that's, Gen Alpha. I mean, that's kind of to be expected, I suppose. Not really understanding the younger generation all that well, since there is a divide between, every generation, obviously. I mean, I have a cousin who is Gen Alpha. He just turned 12 back in July, but it's not like I see him all the time or anything, or, it's not like all we talk about when I do see him or the latest trends and memes that are popular with his age group. I mean, sometimes he like shows me some TikToks he's into, and sometimes he like repeats some of the stuff that's popular with like the Gen Alpha kids, and I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about or referencing, but it's not like all we talk about when I do see him. I'm a millennial, and Gen Alpha makes me feel like a senior citizen. Well, I feel like a senior citizen when I'm when I look at fucking and I'm like I'm younger than you. I'm only 24, and I feel like a senior citizen when I'm looking at the shit that Gen Alpha's into. I don't understand any of it. I remember Damn Daniel too. Oh wow, forgot all about that meme. Well, actually, the only thing that reminds me of that meme is because the music video for a really good Weezer song called California Kids that came out back when that meme was big has that meme at the very end of the video. I think it actually does feature the kid who said "Damn Daniel" in the original video. Yeah, that aged like milk really quickly. It's like almost 10 years ago now. I mean, even putting the horribly outdated meme aside, it was also a really fucking bad music video. It's unfortunate too because that song is a great song off of one of my favorite Weezer albums and one of my favorite tracks off of the album. Too bad it got paired with such a awful video with such a again a such a horribly outdated meme on top of that at the end of it. I despise "Damn Daniel." I remember a bunch of kids in my school would repeat the fucking "Damn Daniel" thing. "Damn Daniel, you're at it again with something, something, something." I barely remember. There was also a guy who tried to run for president as D's nuts. I remember that. No, I think actually Undertaker Fake made a video kind of spoofing on that back in the day. That's how I found out about that. If we had D's nuts as president, someone with the name probably would be in a better position than where we are now. Sadly, we should find the D's nuts guy again, whoever it was that tried to run as that, and run him again, and actually vote him in this time. Probably would be, but again, probably would be still be preferable than the position we're in now. These nuts wasn't funny. It was just ridiculous. I mean, the people saying it over and over again got tiring, but there were certain instances where it was kind of funny, though. This reminds me of kids getting bullied for not having a Stanley Cup or having a fake Stanley Cup. I mean, whatever. And of course, there's the chicken jockey trend, probably the worst one Gen Alpha has done so far that led to the paper lead/paper clips on laptop thing challenge. I don't know what that is. I only know the chicken thing because people were trashing theaters when they would hear Jack Black say that line in the Minecraft movie that came out a few months ago. Made a whole rant on that when that was big. I remember I Hate Everything did a Damn Daniel video and then he parodied the meme by saying "der plant" at a house plant. Then that became a meme to his annoying. Oh my god, unlocked another memory. I forgot that meme. The meme that I Hate Everything kickstarted. Der plant. Wow. Weezer is awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, I do really like Weezer. Some albums I really don't like though, but all in all, Weezer does make good music when they feel like making good music at least. Back in middle school, all I heard was D's nuts, Damn Daniel, and even the Little Einsteins theme. Oh yeah, the Little Einsteins. That sounds kind of familiar too. I saw a photoshopped meme where Markiplier was the president. I mean, people are so celebrity captured. I don't think there would be. I don't think him winning the presidency, if he were to win, would be impossible. His chances of winning the presidency, I mean, wouldn't be impossible. So far, Georgia is a nice place. Yeah, but most places are better than Florida. The bar is like really in hell when it comes to Florida. He also made "I Hate Dust" become a meme. Actually, I don't remember that one. I remember there were a whole bunch of channels parodying "I Hate Everything." I remember that was a big trend like 10 years ago. People would put lead pencils or paperclip at the cable of a Chromebook and then causing it to start a fire. Wow. Yeah, these fucking memes and challenges get dumber and dumber. Hello, Eco Punk. You've joined in at the well, not the final hour, the final 4 or so minutes I'll be doing this, but regardless, welcome. I didn't realize there were still 8 people watching this though. I wasn't had my screen zoomed in at the chat for the last like 20 minutes. Usually there's only like 1 or 2 people left. The stream is about to end, so I'm flattered. John Cena was a huge meme back in the 2010s too. Well, that was because of that prank call, right? From that some radio show did. They kept harassing a lady by yeah, that's where the fucking and his name is John Cena sound clip comes from, I think. That was actually a really funny prank call though. Watched your Ozzy Roger Waters video and I fully agree with that video. I thought I was the only one who flies that way. Yeah, we might be the only two who fly that way because I know I got quite a bit of comments under that video angry at me, saying Roger Waters is stupid for what he said about Ozzy. He's disgusting. I think one comment was like, "You're a self-righteous prick, just like Roger Waters is." Thank you. I know in I Hate Everything, it's a video about Durplan. He said some guy plagiarized his damn Daniel Rand verbatim. It's been years since I watched I Hate Everything's old rant videos. I don't remember a whole lot about them. I'm surprised I forgot that Durplan thing, though. I remember when that was big, and it just like completely like blipped out of my mind until someone in the chat brought it up here. I remember there was a TikTok trend where people stole fire alarms and other things from their schools. Basically, encouraging kids to commit crimes, basically. How great. Yeah, I mean, I don't use TikTok, so I don't know what's big on TikTok or what the big trends are on TikTok. And honestly, I think I'm better off if it's just if it's shit like what you just said. Well, I mean, I did make that Rand video like a month ago. That was the stupid trend where people were kicking on people's doors because that was big on TikTok. If anyone ends up like getting shot from doing that, I'm not gonna feel sorry for them. Devious licks was a really stupid trend. I don't know what that is, and maybe I'm better off not knowing. Eh. But yeah, I mean, TikTok as a platform, I again have zero interest in. I have an account, but I've never posted anything on there. I've only maybe seen like a handful of TikTok videos on the app. And yeah, it's something I really don't care about having in my life because I don't like that type of content. I only like regular long form content. I also don't care for live streams either. I mean, I guess with the exception of Vosh, but even then, I only watch the segments. I don't watch him live aside from like when there's big breaking news, like like what happened with Charlie Kirk the other day. But aside from that, I don't watch him live. But anyways, with that said, yeah, I'm gonna end the live stream now. 2 hours and 6 minutes. My voice is hurting, and I do have to run errands, so I have to leave. I have to leave the house very soon anyway. All right, I'll say what I usually say. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to all of those who were here before, who aren't here now, and of course, I appreciate everyone who interacts with me during these streams. And really, you're the only reason that doing these streams are fun because I like interacting with the chat for 2 hours. And I've said this a million times, but I do find it really flattering that there are people who would stomach listening to me ramble for 2 hours. Jesus. Anyways, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. I don't condone what happened to him, but again, you're not gonna like force me to like feign sympathy for him either. Anyway, bye.